When I think of horror franchises in recent times, I cannot think of one that has been more successful and popular than A Quiet Place. Nobody really expected the movie to become a breakout hit when it first released 8 years ago, but it quickly developed a massive fan following. What followed next was a sequel, and now the legacy of A Quiet Place is branching out into the comic book world as well. IDW has come up with a whole new story, which serves as a prequel to the original film, and this one is titled A Quiet Place: Storm Warning, written by Phil Hester and illustrated by Ryan Kelly. The story explores the chaos as various characters stuck on an island town react to the first days of the alien-ridden apocalypse that takes over the planet. If the creatures were not threatening enough, they also have a deadly storm coming, and how the survivors react to the crisis already sounds like a mouth-watering storyline. With the third movie, A Quiet Place 3, scheduled for a June 30th release in 2027, I think this might be a good time to check out this intriguing comic series, and in this video, I will bring you the entire narrative of the first issue. The story jumps across time, and the opening of the first issue is enough to remind you that this is some serious business. The very first sequence shows the island town of Pearl Island City, and it has been wrecked completely. The deadly creatures that hunt by sound are everywhere, and you can see the ruins all around. However, the story then takes you back to the time before the crisis hit this peaceful town. I think Pearl Island City has the best bits of a small town, and people have gathered around for a meeting hosted by the fire chief Lonnie. Well, he's the fire chief officially speaking, but he's the only one manning the fire department. Just like there's only one cop in this small town, where everyone knows each other. It's almost like a tiny community that lives the simple and wholesome life that big city folks can never experience. But all is not well in Pearl Island City, and Lonnie tells everyone about the crisis that the world is currently facing. I realize that the alien creatures have already attacked the big cities, and Lonnie desperately tries to convince the people that it is not a hoax, but a real and genuine threat. They've all seen the footage of these creatures attacking, and Lonnie describes them as walking tanks, which I find to be a rather appropriate nomenclature. Guns cannot stop them, but Lonnie has a survival plan in mind. He suggests hiding instead of fighting, and he plans to use the geography of the land to their advantage. Their forefathers had established this town on an island in the middle of the Mississippi, and the river is currently at flood stage, which means they have a built-in moat. Then Lonnie drops the biggest shocker for the people when he says that they must take the bridges down. Of course, this is a drastic step, as you can imagine, and it will effectively separate them from the rest of the world. Many people who have gathered for the meeting are livid with the idea. One of them has her husband working in Clinton, and another has her daughter on her way home from college in DeKalb, and they're not ready to forget their loved ones just because Lonnie has a bright idea. He still tries to convince them for this tough step, and he tells them about his communications with officials in other towns. Lonnie has learned that the strange alien creatures are tearing across the country, and the entire world is being taken over. It's also come to his attention that the creatures hunt by sound, and he believes that the only reasons they haven't arrived in this small town yet is because they've not gotten that far. But all his concerns are dismissed outright by Mayor Fair, who also happens to be Lonnie's sister. Firstly, she's unhappy with Lonnie for using the town's resources to get a new fire truck that costs $300,000. Now, this is indeed a bit much for a town of only 600 people, but I can't really fault the man for being sincere in his work, and from the looks of it, he does care deeply about the people in this town. The mayor dismisses all his concerns and belittles him by pointing out that he's not even a proper firefighter, but just a volunteer who runs a river dredge. She claims that even if he's right, they still have built-in moats around that have drawbridges. Well, she's logical in her own way because nobody really knows the extent of the crisis yet. She wants the rescue teams to be able to reach the town if required, and blowing up the bridges certainly won't help in that. If only she knew there would be no rescue teams coming. As of now, Mayor Fair is very optimistic, and she claims that things look bad on the news because the media always exaggerates. She is confident that the people of this town can take care of themselves, and she has the support of the other people in town who don't seem to have much respect for Lonnie. All this heated argument makes Lonnie's son Brody freak out, and I should point out here that his son is in a wheelchair. He is differently abled and he makes muffled sounds when agitated, which immediately rings like an alarm bell for me because I know what's about to hit them. Imagine having a young boy like this when these creatures come to hunt. Lonnie's wife Gloria understands his concerns, and she is disgusted by the dismissive nature of the other townspeople. His young daughter Mia, however, is quite equipped to handle her brother, and she calms him down. However, I wonder if she'll have the time or opportunity to sing out lullabies to soothe her brother when the creatures come. Lonnie then asks his family to stay safe at his office, which also houses the massive river dredging and excavation machine. He says he still has work to do, and I wonder if he wants to destroy the bridges by himself since nobody agreed to his proposition. The warehouse where he keeps his family is specially insulated to store explosives, and Lonnie is taking the explosives, which means, I guessed it right, he plans to knock out the bridges before he can be stopped. He gets on his giant dredging machine and heads to the river, and there's a quick conversation with some official from another town. This only confirms the worsening situation, and Lonnie means business. Meanwhile, the other people of the town and the mayor guess that Lonnie might try to do something like use the dredge through the levee and floodwater would do the rest. The mayor sends the only cop in town, Caleb, to stop Lonnie, and then the scene cuts away to present day, where the town has been completely overrun by the creatures. Clearly, Lonnie could not go ahead with his plans, and now the helpless mayor looks silently from a tower as the creatures are on the prowl. The creatures are drawn to the sound of someone opening a tap, and I must tell you that the creatures look really cool on the pages of this comic series. The mayor makes a run for her life with the kid who had opened the tap, and they jump into the river. She starts a boat and moves away, and the creatures cannot swim, which makes them safe. However, the first issue ends on an absolute cliffhanger, where one of the creatures jumps straight for the boat, and they look on in shock. I can imagine that the crisis will worsen over the next few issues, and there will be many nail-biting situations where the difference between survival and death would be the slightest of sounds. What I enjoy the most about this comic series is the sense of dread that it instills in you. It's not just about the creatures hunting down hopeless humans, but also a fight between egos and stupidity as the crisis worsens. I also loved the setting of this story, where you have a small island town isolated from the outside world. It's not like the outside world could be of much help at this time, but it still creates a sense of isolation with nowhere to run. The writer, Phil Hester, knows his way around comic books, and his earlier works, Swamp Thing and Green Arrow, have both been well received. So far, just into the first issue, I can tell you that he has set up the story perfect. I'm sure that we will witness more character development along the way, shocking and heartbreaking death sequences, and eventually, maybe even a climactic twist. So, this one is clearly worth checking out, and I cannot wait for the next part to be released. If you enjoyed the content, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more, and I promise to keep you updated with this exciting story as the next issues drop.